Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivakachara Astotyara Srimad Abhay Chanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivakachara Astotyara Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रमतनंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीप्रसादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपनाथ श्यामकुंड राधा कुंड श्री गिरि गोवर्धन की, श्री वृंदावन धाम मथुरा धाम की, Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki, Jai Jagannath Puri Purushottam Dham ki, Shinavadip Mayapur Dham ki, Tulasi Maharani Bhakti Devi ki, Hitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembly of the Rus. All glories to the assembly of the Rus. All glories to the assembly of the Rus. All glories to Shishi Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Shira Prabhupada. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam tatu jayamudirayita Nashta prayasva bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama-shloke bhakti bhavati naistiki Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So today we will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Chapter 4, text number 70. Ambarish Maharaj offended by Durvasa Muni. Tapa Vidya Vipranam Brahma Nikshayasa Kare Ube Te Eva Durvinistasya Kalpete Kartuho Anyata Tapo Vidya Chavripanam Nishayasa Kare Ube Eva Durnistasya Kalpetatur Anyata Tapo Vidya Chavipranam Nikshayasa Kare Ube Deva Durni Vinistasya Kalpete Kartur Anyata Tapo Vidya Chavipranam Nishayase Kare Ube Deva Durnivitasya Karpete Kartur Anyata Tapaha, austerities. Vidya, knowledge. Cha, also. Vipranam, of the Brahmanas. Nishreyasa, of what is certainly very auspicious for upliftment. Kare are causes. Ube, both of them. Te, such austerity and knowledge. Eva, indeed. Durvinistasya, when such a person is an upstart. Kalpete, become. Katuhu, of the performer. Anyata, just the opposite. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. For a Brahmana, austerity and learning are certainly auspicious, but when acquired by a person who is not gentle, such austerity and learning are most dangerous. Purport. It is said that a jewel is very valuable, but when it's on the hood of a serpent, it is dangerous despite its value. Similarly, when a materialistic non-devotee achieves great success in learning and austerity, that success is dangerous for all society. So-called learned scientists, for example, invented atomic weapons that are dangerous for all humanity. It is therefore said, Manina Bushitaha Sarpakim Aso Na Bhayankaraha. A serpent with a jewel on its hood is as dangerous as a serpent without such a jewel. Durvasa Muni was a very learned Brahmana equipped with mystic power, but because he was not a gentleman, he did not know how to use his power. He was therefore extremely dangerous. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is never inclined towards a dangerous person who uses his mystic power for some personal design. By the laws of nature, therefore, such misuse of power is ultimately dangerous, not for society, but for the person who misuses it. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumidam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a very dramatic part of Srimad Bhagavatam, where two great personalities are in a conflict. So here Prabhupada, the verse says that for a Brahmana, austerity and learning are certainly auspicious. But when acquired by a person who is not gentle, such austerity and learning are most dangerous. And Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that It is said that a jewel is very valuable, but when it is on the hood of a serpent, it is dangerous despite its value. Similarly, when a materialistic non-devotee achieves great success in learning and austerity, that success is dangerous for all society. And Prabhupada gives the example of the so-called material scientists, how they have invented atomic bomb, but these weapons like atomic bombs, actually they are dangerous for society. So that is an example of someone who misuses knowledge in the material world. But in spiritual life also we see that some personalities misuses the knowledge. The example here, of course, is Durvasa Muni. But there are so many examples also in Srimad Bhagavatam, also in other Vedic literatures like Chaitanya Charitamrita. We see personalities like Ravana doing the same. Ravana was also a Brahmin, also very learned. Hiranyakashipu also, he was very learned, and he misused his knowledge. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, also we see that some people misuses knowledge. Like the example that was given there in CC is that of Vallabhata, who was a very great scholar. But he always tried to minimize the devotees of Mahaprabhu. And eventually he got chastised by Mahaprabhu. By Mahaprabhu's mercy, he was corrected. And then we see also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, he was a very great devotee, but some people, because of his background, did not take him seriously. One of such persons was called Gopal Chapala. This Gopal was a very learned scholar in an assembly of many scholars where Srila Haridas Thakur was invited. They were debating about liberation. And Srila Haridas Thakur, as a Namacharya, he wanted to make a point that just by chanting the holy name, one need not to endeavor separately for liberation. It comes automatically. And he even stressed the point that even when one is chanting in Namabas, he can attain liberation. When this Gopal heard that, being a smarter Brahmana, having his own ideas, he immediately objected. And he argued with Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur. In his argument, he said, if it's true that by Namabhas one can attain liberation, if it's not true, your nose will fall off, meaning that you'll have leprosy. Haridas Thakur said, yes, I accept that case that my nose will fall off if the statement that I'm making is untrue. So of course you know the Leela, you know the story, how later on he himself experienced the melting of his nose and other limbs of his body, this Gopal Chapala. So that's just another example of someone who have knowledge and misuse it. So here the verse is stressing the point that the learning is good for someone who is a Brahmin. Is certainly auspicious. But when acquired by a person who is not gentle, such austerity and learning are most dangerous. So in a similar way, in this part of Srimad Bhagavatam, what we are learning is the danger of knowledge that is acquired by someone who is not gentle. So now what it means to be gentle, Prabhupada said a devotee is a gentleman. Or in other words, a real gentleman can only be the devotee of the Lord. Because this gentleness comes from the realization that I am small and the Lord is great. It comes from the realization also that I am small and those persons who are devotees of the Lord are great. And in that way, one can become gentle. Whereas in the material world, the idea is that I am great and everyone else is small. There was one American boxer who used to say, I am the greatest. I am the greatest. And he believed that. So this is a material understanding. So we see that also here, that Durvasa Muni was also thinking like this, that I am greater than Ambarish. Why is that? Because in the Varnashram system, the Brahmanas are superior to the Kshatriyas or kings. So automatically, someone who's a Brahman will expect to be treated respectfully by kings and other people in the lower rank. But when you come to the spiritual platform, all these are designations, Prabhupada explains. In the 4th canto, chapter 4, text number 13, in the purport, Prabhupada explains. Because there's a question as to what type of a person commits such offenses that we are seeing here committed in this part. So Prabhupada gave the answer there in chapter 4, in 4th canto, chapter 4, text number 13, that the person who is an offender is a person who is excessively in the bodily concept, or a person who excessively identifies with this impermanent body. In other words, the bodily concept of life is the root cause of offenses. So these offenses, they arise from the mind. Because through the mind, we make calculations. This person is inferior to me, this person is superior to me, this person is rich, this person is poor, etc. These are all mind concoctions according to the scripture. So therefore, Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, text number 21, that he says, lust, anger, and greed are the three gates leading to hell. Any person or sober person who is desiring progress in spiritual life should give up this, because they lead to degradation. Why is that? The Lord explains our situation. Shariram yad avapnopi, that when the living entity leaves this body, he leaves this body and carries his or her misconceptions with his subtle body, which consists of mind, his or her intelligence, and identity. As a result, in the next life, he gets into another body with particular features, particular ears, nose, etc. So these tell us that we are in a cycle. This universe is created in cycles, and it moves in cycles. Just like the clock. Now it's 8:30. It's in a cycle. And then when the cycle comes to 9, I have to stop the class. Which means I'm under the influence of the cycle of the clock. And then the sun moves from the east to the west. And then when it appears from the east, we call that morning. When it sets in the west, we call that evening. It's just a cycle. The sun is just moving. And then the years also, they are just cyclic. A person grows from childhood to youth to old age. It's just a cycle. The person remains the same. Lord Krishna explains that as the embodied soul passes through different stages from youth, childhood to youth to old age, the soul remains the same. It's just a cycle. So everybody is in his own cycle. Someone may be a Brahman, he is in a cycle. Someone may be a sannyas, that's a cycle. Someone may be a vanaprastha, it's a vanaprastha cycle. Someone is a grihastha, is in that grihastha cycle. But we think that we make distinctions based on these cycles. So in that way, a devotee of the Lord is in a very special position, because even though he's in a cycle, he's using the waves of the cycle to rise above the storms of the cycle. A materialistic person is in a cycle. He identifies with his cycle. I'm a Brahman. I'm a Sudra, I'm a king, I'm this, I'm that. But these are just cycles. When the cycle moves on, next time he may not be a Brahman, he may be a king also. So we see that also in this material world, that people overly identifies with cycles. So therefore, Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion, he quotes this verse which Prabhupada likes as a key out of the cycle. Sarvopari vinimuktam tat paratvena nirmanam rishikesha rishikena sevanam bhaktir uchati. So this verse explains that the problem is that we have upadis or designations. And then to rise above designations means to engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesh. And then when one engages in devotional service, just as we see the difference between Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni, that when Durvasa Muni came, Ambarish Maharaj was engaged in observing, was just about to break his Ekadashi. He was observing Ekadashi. So then Ambarish Maharaj said, okay, since you have come, I must serve you. And then Durvasa Muni went to take his bath. But as he was taking his bath, the time for breaking the fast sort of like overlapped. So the king was thinking what to do. I want to serve Durvasa Muni first and then break my fast, but he's not returning. So he consulted. The Brahmans said, since you've been observing Nirjara Ekadasi, just by taking a sip of water, you will be breaking the fast, but at the same time, it is considered not breaking the fast. But somehow or other, Durvasa Muni got to know that the king had broken the fast before him. He became infuriated. He became so angry that immediately he wanted to punish the king. So what did the king do? He said, let it be. I'm an offender. Okay, you can punish me. And he took shelter of the Lord. So what we can learn here is one of the 10 subjects of Srimad Bhagavatam called Ashraya. Ashraya means taking shelter. A devotee is always under the shelter of the Lord in all circumstances, in happiness or in distress. That's the difference between Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. That as a devotee, Ambarish Maharaj was always under the shelter of the Supreme Lord. This Durvasa Muni created a demon to punish the king, and then the Sudarshan Chakra intervened and chased after Durvasa Muni. So therefore Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad, he declares Pratijaniri Name Bhakta Prayasta, that my devotees never perishes. Declare it boldly, O Arjuna, that my devotees never perishes. Why? Because they are under the shelter of the Supreme Lord. So this is very, very, very important, because all our practices are meant to bring us to this point of ashraya when we come under the shelter of the Supreme Lord. So here was the king under attack. Kings have armies. Kings have many soldiers, bodyguards. But he did not call upon his bodyguards. He just stood there and meditated upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So these are some of the things that we can learn from these verses, Ashraya, how great devotees took shelter of the Supreme Lord. So why is that devotees are dear to the Lord? The Lord explains in Bhagavad Gita, in the 12th chapter, Advaita Sarva Bhutanam Maitram Karuna Evacha, that a devotee who is non-envious, who is kind and friendly to all living entities, Nirmara Nirmana, devotee who is free from the sense of proprietorship, free from false ego, the Lord says, he is very dear to me. So we see how Ambarish Maharaj is just free from the sense of proprietorship. He is free from envy. He is not envious of this great sage. So in that way, when these dear devotees are under the attack, the Lord makes arrangement to protect them. So this is our goal of life, ashraya, to be always under the Lord's protection. Why? Because that is our constitution. Just like Sanatana Goswami, he was a great scholar. He was very famous. He was a prime minister in the government. But when he became a devotee, he had this realization that many people consider me to be a great scholar, to be a great manager. But actually, I don't know. Who am I? And then he went to Mahaprabhu with this question, who am I? Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami that you are an eternal servant of Krishna. Jivere Swarupera Krishnare Nityadas. This is your position. This is your identity. Now, how do you get to that position, to that original position? Mahaprabhu explains that one has to become more humble than a blade of grass. One has to become more tolerant than a tree. One has to give respect to others without expecting any in return. And he says, if one do these things, you will be able to constantly chant the holy name. These are very, very commonplace verses to us, but the meaning is very, very deeper. Because what Mahaprabhu is saying, actually he is giving the idea of how to attain perfection. And then Mahaprabhu says, Jivere Sarupere Krishna Nitya Das, you are an eternal servant of Krishna. Actually, that is our eternal form, that we are servants of Krishna. And Prabhupada explains that upon coming to the material world, that consciousness becomes polluted. It is polluted by what? V-bodies. I'm a Brahmana, I'm a king, I'm an American, I'm a European, I'm an Asian, I'm an African, I'm a cow. So many. So then once you think you're a cow, and then you have to behave in a particular way. Once you think you are a peacock, and then you have to fly in a particular way. You become conditioned. Just like one devotee was giving the class, he said, this is supposed to be an English class, but I don't speak English, I speak American. That's interesting. Like I was thinking, what about me? I don't speak American, I don't speak English. I don't have any language. Yes. So, I hope you are bearing with me. Yes, because I'm not American, I'm not English. I don't know English. I just got to know it from what I have learned from my teachers in school. But my language is different. If I speak in my language here, you may cry. Because it's painful. But some people think it's like nectar. We speak in clicks like... It sounds like metals, huh? It gives you pain, can give you a headache. If you're not from that particular race of people, you have a headache. You'll have a headache. Yes, so I'm trying to speak in English. So in that way, we are English, we are Americans, we are Asians. But actually these are just designations. Based on these designations, we may hate each other. We may end up creating wars, just like Ambarish and Durvasa Muni. Ambarish was just doing his bhakti as a king. But this great yogi saw him as an inferior person and decided he was going to punish him. And of course he was reprimanded, he was corrected by the Sudarshan Chakra. Because the devotees are under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no matter who they are. So in that way we can learn here how devotees are under the protection of the Lord. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he was in Allahabad in 1971, in January, on the 18th. He made this statement, that I'm not saying surrender unto me, Prabhupada. What I'm saying, you surrender to Krishna. Krishna says, surrender unto me in Bhagavad Gita. I'm also repeating the same thing. Surrender unto Krishna. There is no difference. Prabhupada said there is no difference. What I'm saying and what Krishna is saying is the same thing. Krishna says, Sarva Dhamma Parichagya Mamekam Sharanam Praja. I'm also saying the same thing. Surrender to Krishna. I'm not saying surrender to me. So that's a pure devotee. He says the same thing as Krishna. Krishna says, you are my devotee. Become my devotee. And the pure devotee says, become a devotee of Krishna. So that's the difference. But some bogus people don't talk like that. They don't say surrender to Krishna. They say surrender unto me. Give all your money to me. For certain prayers, I'll give you certain prayers. You give 5,000 rupees. You get a car. I'll bless you. You will prosper. You see? But Papa said, no. I say, surrender to Krishna. Because that's what Krishna says. So that's the difference between so many so-called leaders or so-called great spiritualist and a pure devotee. That the first qualification is that the devotee of Krishna says, surrender unto Krishna. Become the devotee of Krishna. Give all your energy and time to Krishna. So this is the difference. Bhagavatam explains. Just like, how much time do we have? There's one story. In the old days, Prabhupada was coming. Devotees didn't have much facility, like we have Mayapur, we have so many big temples. The temples were small, and the facilities were not that good. So when Prabhupada was coming, they always tried to offer him good reception and make the temple nice. So when Prabhupada was coming, and then the temple president noticed that the Tulsi didn't have a skirt. Someone had to make a skirt. And then the devotees were new. One Mataji volunteered herself. I will make the skirt. She went to the shop, got the materials, and she started making the skirt for the Tulsi. For Tulsi. And then when it was done, and then it was put on Tulsi just before Prabhupada came. So the temple manager, when he saw it, he didn't like it. He said, who made this? This is terrible. So the Mataji is there. He is hearing this. And she started crying. Oh, I'm such an offender. I could not make the nice skirt for Tulsi. But anyway, Prabhupada was coming. She couldn't make another one. Anyway, the skirt was left on Tulsi. And then Prabhupada came. And he looked around, he saw, Tulsi had a skirt. Prabhupada said, what a beautiful skirt. Who made it? The Mataji started crying even more. Prabhupada liked my skirt. First she was crying because she thought she offended her manager. But then when Prabhupada came, immediately noticed, what a beautiful skirt. And then she started crying even more. So in that way, we cannot tell what pleases Krishna and pure devotees. We may judge devotees based on what we like and what we don't like. But maybe Krishna may like that very same thing that we don't like. When Prabhupada came, he saw the skirt, he liked it, and he said, wow, what a beautiful skirt. And Maharaji went into ecstasy. So in that way, pure devotees, they always see the nice service that devotees are rendering to Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada was an example. Therefore, we take inspiration from him. And that is how this movement is going on very nicely. That we are guided by Srila Prabhupada's examples. We are guided by Srila Prabhupada's instructions in his books. So in that way, we can learn how to appreciate also the services of other devotees, no matter how small they are. Even if a child is trying to make some garland for Radha Madhav, even if it's not made proper, Radha Madhav knows this child, out of love and devotion, is making the garland for me. He accepts it. But we may not see it that way. But Radha Madhav will accept. So in that way we can develop this mode of devotees of the Lord who always see that everyone is doing something for Krishna. And that way be free from offenses. It's a good practice. Otherwise, managerially things may differ. But in devotion service, things takes upon a different shape because they take the shape of bhakti. So now it's 5:02 actually. Yeah, it's 5:02. This one says 6:02. I'll beg to stop here and beg you for forgiveness if I have disturbed you in any way. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.